Welcome to Dr. Amazon Podcast, the emergency support channel for FBA private label sellers. We invite top Amazon experts to share the most efficient tips and tricks for your businesses. We are trying to deliver only accurate, credible, and relevant information. My name is Vitaly Fizhniak and I am the CGO of Profit Whales. And let's get started. I will give a short introduction about the guest of our today's episode. Ryan Nissen is CEO of Elevate Brands. Elevate acquires Amazon third-party FBA businesses from successful entrepreneurs that are ready to pass the baton. Elevate is a world-class branding and operation team that helps to grow these businesses and brands into category leaders. Ryan, nice to meet you.
Great to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's a pleasure for us. And Ryan is actually the first guest of Dr. Amazon podcast in 2021. And we have a responsible mission to open the second season of Dr. Amazon podcast. We decided to flip the script a bit and let's start not from the most common questions on how you started your journey, but from the conversation game. Let's start. Ryan, I will ask you a short questions and you need to reply with one phrase within 5 seconds. Would it work for you?
Sure, go for it. I'll try my best.
Yeah. Okay, let's start.
Right.
So, what is your name?
Ryan Nissen.
What is date is today?
Today's the 18th of Jan.
Where are you now?
New York City, my apartment in Manhattan.
What is the biggest achievement for today?
In my life or of today?
For today only.
Oh, my biggest achievement for today. We recently we just won a bid to buy a business that we were really excited for, and we just got 5 minutes before this call started. We got confirmation of that, so that was exciting.
Perfect. And what is the biggest achievement in 2021?
2021. We've brought on a number of really amazing people who started at the beginning of this year, which I'm super excited to work with.
I guess we will come back on it. Waiting or keep going?
Keep going.
Inspiring or being inspiring?
Inspiring.
Your life motto?
That's a good question. Experiment and double down on your wins.
Perfect. If you're given a magic pill to learn any skill overnight, what would it be?
I would love to speak Mandarin. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, that is cool. What was your 2021 resolution?
I don't typically do like resolutions, but we have some goals for the business that we'd like to accomplish. So we'd like to we would like to acquire 40 Amazon businesses this year.
Great. So first of all, well done. I really like your answers, and now let's actually talk about how you started, on Amazon, because now we have just picked, some really great topics, and I'm just here some great answers that I would like to learn more. And I know that before the e-commerce, you were involved in commodities trading operation.
Yeah.
And so how you entered into the Amazon world, and how long did it take for you to reap the first benefits of your work?
Yeah, so in the middle of 2016, I decided to leave the commodities trading world, and when I left, I had no plan for what I was going to do, right? It was kind of blank canvas. I moved to New York City and I thought I'll look to buy a business or start a business. And I was just looking for opportunities. And some of the criteria that I was looking for was to join an industry that was in the early stages of the life cycle of the industry and growing at a reasonably strong rate. And sort of e-commerce fit the criteria in that sense. And also, there's an element of trading to it, which I kind of enjoyed and had previous experience with in commodities. So it kind of fit the criteria there. And that was, so like, that was why I picked the industry. And then the first success was really, really fast. So what I did was I just tested by buying a few pairs of shoes from a Nike outlet store. And put them up for sale on Amazon, and they sold within a matter of days. So, the period from saying I'm going to launch an Amazon business to actually getting my first sale was probably, maybe 2 weeks or something, 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. It's very quick, And it's interesting because I come across a lot of, I was in a conference the other day and I was chatting with one of the sellers who has been studying the space for like 5 or 6 months, but not actually gone and implemented and started yet. And what I said was, just begin. Just start somewhere very, very, very small. Just because you start to build on those little successes, right? You build, like to the comment about my motto, you build on small successes in life. You don't need these major successes. And in any case, major successes are nothing but sort of a combination and an accumulation of thousands of micro successes. So just start where, get tiny micro success under your belt and use the momentum. So that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, that is perfect. And there is a lot of news about the Amazon, Rollups these days. Yeah. And there are many compelling aspects to it. But there is also a lot of risk about that. And what for you makes it attractive as a business model?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The space has become really quite attractive, but that also means there's a ton of competitive. I mean, we know of something like 35 people doing 35 roll-ups happening, and I'm sure there are plenty more than that as well. And so there's over $1 billion of equity and something like $2.5 billion of debt that's been raised in the last 12 months or so for the space. So there's certainly a lot of competition. What makes it attractive is just the fact that Amazon is such a powerhouse, and we think that the Amazon platform will continue to grow substantially. So 2019, Amazon third-party marketplace revenue was $200 billion, and last year 2020 was $295 billion. So it grew dramatically in the space of a year. And this year, we've seen some forecasts saying it's going to be something like 330 billion, and we'll get to sort of I'm talking about third-party marketplace only. We've seen forecasts that will get to $500 billion within the next 3 or 4 years. So when you look at the scale of opportunity there and the fragmentation that exists within the market, there are hundreds of thousands of sellers. Something like 25 or 30,000 do more than $1 million in revenue. But when you look at the fragmentation and the opportunity to go and acquire those sellers and then implement best practice to grow them, that's what gets us excited, because we meet some incredible sellers, and many of them have done an amazing job, but they've been running the business as a one-man show or a two-man or three-man show. And what we can do is, today we have over 40 people, and we're going to be continuing to scale the team quickly. But what we have sort of centers of excellence or centers of excellence, or what you call functional experts across supply chain, logistics, SEO, PPC, customer service, branding and creative. So we can really implement best practice with, social media, channel management. So we can go and take a business that's already doing really well and then optimize, improve it, grow it, and then get incremental growth out of that business.
I knew the really great accelerator company, like Amazon PPC accelerator company. The name is the Profit Fails, but we'll come back to it. Okay, so let's speak about the Amazon seller acquisition market, because this market just had a breakout this year, only this year. I mean, 2020, and we have seen how the new companies just became they start purchasing and acquired new brands, and when you understand that this business model will work for you, that this business model will be one of yours.
When did we decide?
Yeah.
So We acquired. So first of all, we've been running our Amazon business since the end of 2016. But most of the time, 2017, 2018, and most of 2019, we were reselling. So we were doing wholesale reselling of closeout inventory, and so we were managing sort of 8,000 or 9,000 SKUs. So although it's not exactly private label, we had really strong operational experience, and we really bootstrapped the business for a long time. So we understood all the ins and outs of the business already. And then in the fourth quarter of 2019, we acquired our first brand. And frankly, the brand actually dropped by 50% within the first couple of weeks of buying it. There were a number of a number of unfortunate events took place all at the same time, and the business dropped 50%. So originally, that was when we realized, holy shit, this is not such a simple business model, right? To buy businesses, they're not necessarily just going to continue to sustain themselves. So there is a lot of risk there. But we sort of filled the gaps in our knowledge very, very quickly. And then we were able to get that brand back to even grew 150% over the next few months from where it was originally. So it was 150. And while that growth was taking place, we also launched another brand in the early part of 2020. And that brand did something like $2 million in the first 3 months of revenue and profitable. And so those two events, and then we launched a third brand. And so, each time we proved success, we got more and more confident. And it was really in the middle of 2020 that we decided to go full steam ahead, full charge, raise capital, and go full steam ahead at the Rollup model. But again, it was based on trial and error and trying a number of things and making sure we were successful. We didn't just jump in because we saw other guys being successful. We tested it ourselves. We made sure that we knew what we were doing, and that we could grow these brands. And then since the second half of 2020, we've acquired a whole slew of different brands, and now we have quite a large portfolio, and all doing exceptionally well. So
great. And according to your experience, why would someone want to sell their Amazon business?
So, I mean, there's many reasons, but let's just say you're a seller and you're doing, let's say, $500,000 in earnings, in profit. Well, most of those earnings get reinvested into the new inventory. Because if you want to grow your business, you've got to keep reinvesting capital. And these are cash flow intensive businesses. So a guy, seller who's making, let's say, $500,000 in profit, maybe takes for themselves 100 or 150 grand a year, and the rest gets reinvested, let's say. Well, if you can come and offer that person, let's say, maybe let's call it a 3 or 4 time multiple on the business, right? So someone's earning, let's say they take $2 million. Well, if they've only been taking 150 grand a year, and now you're offering someone $2 million, that is a very attractive prospect for somebody, right? And what we're seeing with many of our sellers is they say, great, I'll sell it. I'll take money off the table. Maybe I'll take half that money or 3/4 of that money and put it into an investment property or, whatever it is. And then I'll take the other 25, 30% and start another Amazon business. Right. And so from a seller's perspective, and also, sometimes we come across sellers who they've done an amazing job and they're just burnt out and they're tired. And they just want to kind of pass the baton to someone else who can then take it to the next level. So those are kind of the reasons that we're seeing sellers coming to market.
Great. And you have mentioned that you would like to acquire like a great Amazon businesses. Yeah. But could you please tell me more about what are you looking for in these businesses? I mean, maybe you want to find some good numbers during like a half in a year or 1 year, or you're looking some niche or products, that you would like to buy or purchase. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so we're actually very flexible with the category. We're agnostic to the category. What we really look for are sort of a number of key things. Number one is we want to see that they have really good reviews, right? So, because I mean, if a product isn't great and it's got 2.5-star reviews or 3-star, there's not much we can do. We can do a bit of marketing, but there's not a whole lot we can do. So we want to see a product that's got really nice reviews. Let's say at least above 4 stars, preferably sort of 4.7, 4.8, in a perfect world. But but above 4 stars. And we want to see that there's consistency, that it's not a fad, right? So if it's a fidget spinner or if it's a face mask that is done really well over because it's PPE done well over COVID, but not sustainable, that's not something we're really interested in. So we want to see something that's sustainable, and ideally where there's kind of a growing trend in the niche that product is in. We like to see that there's a lot of reviews, right? So, ideally, if someone is a review leader in the category, that's kind of ideal for us. But even if they're not the absolute review leader, we want to see them kind of near the top of the page. And we'd like to see businesses that have been in business for, a number of years, ideally kind of 2 years plus. But if it's less than 2 years, I mean, we've looked at businesses that are sort of about a year old, which are attractive, right? But, ideally, we like to see longer tenure as well.
Got it. And after I understand that you have, when you start the negotiation about the business and about the purchasing, you do the audit of this business, right? What metrics do you think is important to Amazon sellers to follow or to catch on the beginning? Just to improve them, for example.
Well, I mean, all of those things that I mentioned to you, you're looking to sell business. You want to be paying attention to, number one, making sure the reviews are great. No black hat tactic kind of stuff. That stuff scares off a lot of sellers. If someone's gaming reviews, that's really not an attractive business to buy. And sellers can often tell and figure out whether something's been gamed or not. Buyers can tell. And other than that, I mean, if you've got positive EBITDA margins and your advertising budget is optimized, and ideally, if you have new SKUs in the pipeline, that's also something very helpful. So if you're launching new SKUs and you have that in the pipeline, a buyer wants to see that there's opportunity not just to buy a great business, but also that there's room to grow the business, like in a perfect world, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so that might be putting it on other channels or other things like that. So those are some of the things that buyers look for.
Yeah, great. I know that it's really so important then when you follow the buyer every time on the beginning, on the first steps, on providing them with the audits, with a plan on how you will just purchase the business. And do you have any problems, on these steps, or maybe some problems that your team have faced when they just purchase the business and you do not face the goals or targets that you have planned to do?
Yeah, one of the big mistakes that we've seen, when a seller is looking to sell a business, right? We strongly recommend you keep running that business as though it's not going to be sold, right? Because what happens is, we came across a business, for example, where we were very close to finalizing. And through the diligence process, we noticed that the company was running out of stock and there was no new order for new stock. And we said to the seller, where are the new orders for inventory? And the seller's reply was, well, I haven't ordered because that's your problem. When you buy the business, your problem. And of course we hadn't taken over the business yet. So of course we couldn't put in any new orders. And so what would have happened in that situation is we would have bought the business and then the business would have dropped by, 70% or whatever is waiting for the new inventory. And so that kind of thing would make a buyer very, very nervous and could be grounds for a deal to fall over, right? In the end, we worked out an arrangement with the seller. We delayed things a little bit and we worked with them to solve the problem. But that's a critical thing is if you're looking to sell a business, until the documents are signed, you want to operate as though it's not going to close, and keep growing it and keep pushing it forward. Just to protect yourself and the seller, because you never know.
Yeah. I know that no worries. I know that a lot of companies and businesses right now use a different tactics to grow the business correctly, to boost it, to scale. I understand that you, on the beginning, you are focusing on the marketing. First, you try to remake it, yeah?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's one of the levers. But, I mean, we implement essentially we try and implement all levers at the same time, right? So, Branding and creative is a big one for us. We have a super strong branding and creative team, and we found that just by redoing packaging, boxes, sometimes a new logo design, rechange, things like that, can have a dramatic impact. And we very systematically test and poll these new designs before we go to market. So we're not guessing, right? And we're reaching out and making sure the customers actually like the product. So branding and creative is like one aspect to it. But of course, under marketing also falls SEO and PPC, and that's a lever that can be pulled immediately. We have sort of world-class marketing people, performance marketing people in that area, and we've been able to get some really great incremental growth out of SEO and PPC optimization. And then, of course, like supply chain, we found in situations where we can find a new supplier or negotiate terms, or because we have a bigger business, we can get economies of scale by finding synergies with other similar brands. So, optimizing supply chain can be a really big factor for us as well. And then like customer service is a big one that people don't realize how much. If you do really, really amazing customer service, that in itself can help your reviews and can really help the brand. So it's all of those things. It's not just one thing. I mean, it's all of those things combined. Testing, pricing, all sorts of different things. There's a lot of checklist for how we go through systematically to do that.
That is great, because you have a big team for now, and if you would like to hire more and more people, you will have a chance to move faster in different ways and improve the business, like all spheres of the business on Amazon. That is really great. And have you ever think about the multi-channel? Yeah, I mean that try to promote this business not only on Amazon but also use some other platforms.
Sure. So we've been doing that for a little while now. We've recently this year hired some really, really amazing performance multi-channel kind of management people. So multi-channel strategists who are really amazing. And so this is an area we're putting more focus on now, growing the businesses on various channels. Amazon across multiple locations. So yes, absolutely, and we've seen some really good results already.
Yeah, perfect. And do you have any ideas about the Amazon growth during the 2021 and 2020 and 2025? Yeah.
Well, I mean, in terms of like broadly speaking, I've seen forecasts saying Amazon's third-party marketplace, GMV, will grow from last year 295 billion to roughly 330, 340 billion. I've seen some forecasts suggesting even higher than that. So it will be interesting to watch and see, but there's clearly plenty of opportunity and plenty of growth in the space. I saw this really cool survey that was done the other day. I think it was by Max Bors or something like that, and they asked it was a survey of millennials, and they asked people, would you rather give up sex or Amazon? And something like 44% of people, millennials, said they'd rather give up sex over Amazon, which was amazing. And something like 76% or something said they'd rather give up alcohol versus Amazon. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing. And Amazon's, it's just the consumer experience for buying products on Amazon is so great.
Yeah.
And we just think that it's going to continue to get better because Amazon's continuing to innovate, and the flywheel.
Exactly.
And the flywheel is so strong on Amazon because, right, as you get more consumers coming, you get more sellers. Like we're just seeing tons of new sellers coming into the space, and more sellers brings more opportunity and better prices and better variety, and that brings more customers again. And the more customers brings more sellers, and the flywheel goes round and round and just gets bigger and better and spins faster. And so, we think that the Amazon marketplace is going to continue to kind of dominate e-commerce for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that is great because we could see how these flywheel effects on different around the world. I mean, how the Amazon just opened new countries and borders and markets for most of the Amazon sellers, and you do have a chance to also to sell your products around the world. That is perfect. And regarding your survey, here we could just understand how the Amazon social impact, about that, how deep the Amazon works around the world. So that is also cool. And could you please recommend maybe 3 or 5 things for the Amazon sellers who want to, for example, to sell their businesses, or they right now just start the Amazon business and want to do it in future. Any recommendations from your side?
Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to call this great guy called Vitaly from Profit Wells. That's the first thing you got to do to help grow your business, right? That's the first thing. And then once you've done that, some of the other things you can do is to grow the Amazon business. First of all, if branding and creative, Amazon is a very visual platform, and make sure you spend and give enough attention to doing really great branding and creative, right? And test it, and don't just test it with 2 of your friends, or you want to, or your family members, because they're always going to tell you test it thoroughly in the market. There's a bunch of companies that do various polls. You want to test it thoroughly, making sure you have really great branding and great, because it's the first thing the customer sees. And if you're not a real expert at this stuff, use an agency, right? I mean, there's a bunch of really great agencies out there that can help you, and you get expertise from some of the real sort of gurus in the industry, and it's worth doing that and really paying attention and learning how that works. It's funny. I mean, we could talk through all the different levers, but business is funny because it's never what you do, it's how you do it. We always like to say that, McDonald's doesn't sell the best burgers in the world, but they have the biggest, the biggest food business the world's ever seen. And, in most categories on Amazon, there's room to improve, and there's room to innovate, and there's even if it looks super competitive, there are ways to constantly find ways of improving. Read the 1-star reviews of yours and your competitors, and constantly looking for ways to try and innovate your product and your offering, and just optimize and improve, every aspect, because it's not one thing. You could have the best images in the world, but terrible PPC. You could have the best PPC, but terrible images. And to be really successful, you really want to try and systematically and methodically focus on optimizing each of those areas.
Yeah, that is true. And Ryan, thank you for sharing all your experience and answering all these questions. And that is a great story that all of the Amazon sellers will just listen and try to figure it out how they should work next. So thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure from our side.
No, absolutely. Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
And that is all for today's Dr. Amazon episode. Don't miss our future arrivals with new hot topics. Press the like, leave us a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. We will come back to you shortly.